Hi, this is Aquarian Anarchy, and this is Marcus Pulis. We're returning with a special edition of Aquarian Anarchy where we are interviewing each of the members of our band of joyful anarchists. And, right. Before we begin, I definitely want to say, please hit that bell icon, hit the share. As Chad likes to say, 2 shares to spread this channel throughout the interwebs and get it all out there. And make sure you subscribe to Patreon. Go check out our store. We got a bunch of really cool products that have just hit the market, and I strongly suggest you check them out. Right now, shipping is free. So this week, or I guess this time, we're going to be interviewing Chad. And Chad and I have been friends for a while, a couple of years before he came on to Aquarian Anarchy, because we both worked for Adam Kokesh. But I want to dive into, for me, what kind of led Chad to, and I know some of this story, but y'all don't know this story. I want to dive in first to, what made Chad Chad. I like to give Chad shit because I practice voodoo and I've been a hellion all my life, and I like to call him a choir boy and play with him a little bit. But in all reality, I think that Chad has an interesting life. And isn't it's easy for somebody like me to rebel when my whole life has been rebellion. On the other hand, someone who does believe in pretty traditional Catholic beliefs, it is a little more difficult to challenge those authorities and to have an understanding of a set belief system and still have that belief system. So I think that's a little bit more rebellious than even what I do. So Chad, you want to tell us about your parents, about your kids, about your wife, about your family? What brought you into
that? Go into meats and potatoes.
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting genesis. I'm like, in a weird way, I'm like possibly like the least likely person you could have pegged to be an anarchist. I grew up like being very big like rules follower. Like I needed to know what the rules were so that then I could like fit within the structure and play the game that was meant to be played within that structure. And then I'm like my mom used to call me technical difficulty when I was a kid because she would be like, it's time to go to bed. It's 10 o'clock. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's 9:54. Or something like that, or it's 9:57. I still got 3 minutes left. Like I don't even need to like go take a bath yet. That sort of thing. Where I had like a little rebellious streak, but it was like up to where the limit is. And it's like you can't like make arbitrary limits that aren't the limits that we already like agreed to or whatever. So it's I guess maybe I had it in me a little bit, but I was still very. I needed to know what the rules were. And so like, if somebody was like not playing by the rules, I was calling them out on it and all this kind of stuff. So like growing up, Catholic, cradle to now, I did my wife and I we're both cradle Catholics, went through like a phase in the late 90s, early 2000s where we explored a bunch of different things, went to different churches and stuff. And, my wife was actually into like tarot and stuff and did some astral projection type stuff and different things like that where and it was kind of scary, but and then we kind of like came back and we're like, that was scary, let's not do that. Like let's go back to normal Catholic world and let's just be good little Catholics and do things the right way, which is what I thought.
Just shows that you're smarter than I am, Chad, because I went, if this is scary, can we do that shit again?
Exactly. I am with you, Marcus.
Yeah. So that's kind of where some of that stuff went. And so what happened was that experience actually brought me, and then like going to a few like non-denominational and some other like Protestant churches and stuff like that. and some like we went to a church that was called like the Church of Today. It was bizarre. Like it was like you walk in, it was like in a strip. It was in a strip mall. It was in a strip mall, and it was like the little plastic chairs with the tennis balls on the bottom of them. They were like, they're like, come on in. And so they're like up there, and some of the stuff is like scripture, and then there's like Buddha and Gandhi and like Martin Luther King and Chesterton, and I'm like, this is an eclectic group of quotes.
You're a little weird.
they're putting together, but it was cool because it was like in a way it was like kind of like what we've talked about. A lot of these philosophers and a lot of these visionaries all kind of saw the same thing. They just had a different way of interpreting it, and they came at it from their own perspective. But it's still like some of the stuff. It was just like the way that it all that it was all presented was kind of bizarre. And so again, like a child running to safety, we actually went back, and what we did was we found a Catholic church where they had like a band with like electric guitars and drums and everything. And I was like, okay, like I can get down with this because like it's not boring and like super stuffed shirty. It's more kind of my speed. So I ended up like singing in the band at one point, and for like a couple of years. Had my kids baptized there and everything. It was a whole different experience, and actually like led me to becoming like even like more hardcore Catholic as a result. And so in a way it was very similar. I was going through a similar experience with the church and with government and like the Republican Party at the same time, where I felt like the church wasn't Catholic enough and the Republican Party wasn't conservative enough. And now that I think about it, it's like, in a way it was like the church has too many people who are like arbitrarily like corrupt and doing things and like leading people astray, leading the flock astray. And the Republican Party is not anarchist enough. It's basically what my mind was really telling me, what my heart was telling me. But I just didn't have the words yet to really like articulate it. And actually, like I had a friend who he had an anarchy tattoo on his chest and all this kind of stuff. And I used to make fun of him and say he was crazy. And we used to talk about this. The funny thing about that is that like he had the tattoo. But by the end, like he stopped talking to me after a while. But by the end of it, like before he stopped talking to me, it had gotten to the point where like he was like more of a statist than I was.
Yeah.
And like he was arguing for things, and like we would be talking about stuff, and the whole reason why we stopped talking and everything was very bizarre, and I don't want to really get into it, but like it was basically like I helped him get a job with the company that I work for. He decided to like really try to fuck it up and succeeded, and then like just went AWOL. And then like I kept trying to reach out to him, and he was basically like, "No, I'm not giving you my phone number." And I'm like, because the only thing I had left to get in touch with him was email. And so I was like, "All right, man, look, I'm not gonna stalk you or anything like that. Like, you don't want to talk to me, you don't want to talk to me. Fine, whatever." But so that was kind of like how all of that stuff unwound for me and got me to actually finding. It was weird because I found Tom Woods through Adam. I was watching Adam podcast.
For those that don't know, tell the Adam you were.
Adam Kokesh, yeah, Adam Kokesh. I'm trying to remember how it was. Ron Paul. I had a group of like really strong Catholic friends who were like heavy Ron Paul supporters in 2012. So I missed the whole Ron Paul train from 2007 to 2008 and all the way leading up to 2012. And as actually like one of the conversations I had at the Ron Paul headquarters here in Baton Rouge, where this guy, I think he's from Washington State. He was like their delegate coordinator or whatever you want to call it. And we sat down and talked, because I had this really beautiful metaphor, I thought, for like foreign policy. Like that was my only thing with Ron Paul. I was like, yeah, all this stuff is crazy. They're ridiculous, but foreign policy, Ron Paul's crazy. And so like I go and I talk to him. I'm like, yeah, so like check it out. So like we've set this like elaborate table in this big dining hall, and there's this tablecloth, and there's all this food and all these place settings and everything, and it's all there. And you just want to rip the tablecloth out, and everything's just going to go everywhere, and it's going to be destruction. And the guy was like, well, I see where that's not a bad, way to describe how our foreign policy is what it is. And like, we've kind of set that table. He said, but here's the thing. Eventually we're going to run out of money, and the table's going to like explode, or, somebody's going to knock it over or whatever anyway. So we might as well like get out of there what we can when we can, and like start pulling stuff off the table as quickly. So he like kind of broke the metaphor down for him, and it's like, we don't have to rip the tablecloth off, but we can start taking shit off the table, and then get to the point where we can take the tablecloth off, and then like I actually and so he kind of got me into like the idea of blowback, and how like so much of what we're dealing with overseas is because we have gone and broken other people's toys in their toy box, and pissed and shit in their sandbox and everything else. And so now, when you blow the arms off of little kids and kill their parents and all this other kind of stuff, their big brother might or might not get mad and want to come over here and do something about it. And then again, there may be other people who aren't that guy's brother, who pretend that it's that guy's brother, and they actually do the shit over here, and it's not actually the terrorists.
What's funny is in your analogy, what I thought of, this is the Ron Paul in me, I guess, but what I thought of is, we did set the table. We put that cloth right on that deck of cards.
Oh, yeah.
So, it can fall at any moment,
right?
And is only made of nothing.
It's made of nothing. Yeah, exactly. So that led me to and it's funny because like this is from like this really hardcore group of Catholic guys that led me to Ron Paul. So then I start just devouring, because this is how I am. I'm like I find a rabbit hole, and I don't stop unless it's astral projection and that shit like that. And then I'm like, there's a Wolverine down there, and I don't want to meet him. So I just scurried down that rabbit hole as far as I could, and that's how I found this guy Ty Loomis, who I still follow on Twitter, and he still follows me. And like I've seen he kind of went dark for a while, and he plays volleyball and stuff. But anyway, he had this site. It was called Intellectual Revolution, and he was posting a lot of stuff and everything. And one day, he posts this video of Adam talking to like a Marine vet or some other combat vet or whatever in like on some lawn somewhere at Occupy Wall Street. And Adam like breaks down anarcho-capitalism to him and explains it. And the way that Adam, how Adam is, when Adam is like doing his thing with nonviolent communication and like breaking things down, like he has this way of like, he had the guy basically at the end of it saying like, yeah, you're pretty much right. Like the people who are really to blame for all this stuff are the people who sent us to war and who did all the, all this other. And it's like, damn, like, let me go. So then I'm like, all right. And I just devour Adam's content. And then one day Adam interviews Tom Woods on his show. And he said, and because one of the big hangups that I had was, I was like, fuck, man, it looks like all these libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, anarchist types who like I really vibe with, they're all atheists. And because at the time, Adam was an atheist. And so Adam meets Tom Woods and he says, can we just do this nice big Catholic atheist hug? And then they hug and then they talk and they're like agreeing with all this stuff. And I'm like, who's this Tom Woods guy? There's a Catholic, there's like a devout Catholic guy who wrote like all these books about the church and all this other kind of stuff, the church and Western civilization and, all these different things. And I'm like, whoa, the church and the market. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Like, I don't have to like stop believing what I believe to believe this other thing. And like, they're actually congruent. And that's where like, when we had Mark Kreslin's on, it was the same kind of thing where it's like, look, like we can find a way to like make these things kind of connect and communicate with one another. And when you realize like in reality, yeah, the thing about the give to Caesar what is Caesar's, that's a thing where like Jesus saw a trap coming and he's like, y'all are focused on the wrong fucking things. Y'all are trying to trap me on whether or not it's right to pay taxes. And I'm just going to tell you, like, look, you look at that thing, you tell me who you think it belongs to. You give that to him. We're worrying about God. We're worrying about eternity. We're worrying like this stuff that shit doesn't even compute on this level. And when you really get down to it, and you get down to like the stuff that he was really fighting against, Jesus was an anarchist. So like it doesn't fail to land for me. So anyway, so that's kind of how, I don't know if that
makes perfect sense.
That was like a fast forward through about 40 some odd years of life there.
So yeah, that's awesome. Tell me, and that I love that story. Tell me how raising children and being a committed husband has added to removing the veils of government and enlarging your own personal journey.
See, I actually think so. Yeah, there's definitely some stuff where you see like the things that happen to your kids. Cause like, remember, like my youngest child was already born when I finally like really like came out of the stupor, you know? What I would say is actually like, I think that parenting has been kind of a stumbling block, I guess, so to speak, because so much of our conditioning is that the parents like whip the kids into shape, and that's how you get good little kids. And then that's how the kids learn how to respect police and government, you know, and then it's just this cycle that keeps perpetuating itself. And so like when, like we were talking about before with my son, where, you know, he's like trying to test me. He's kind of going through this, like, let me see if I'm worthy of being the alpha. And so I'm going to bow up and all this kind of stuff. It's a challenge when you're dealing with that, to deal with that in a way that isn't, you know, just beating the shit out of him and putting him in his place, you know?
It's easy.
So trying to reason with him. And now that I will say this, the framework that we built leading up to this point has made it easier to make it more of a look. It's my job as your dad to make sure that you become a man, to make sure that you become the right kind of man who can take care of himself and who doesn't have to hurt anybody to do it. But I have to do that in a way that kind of builds the foundation for you, or helps you to build your foundation to do that. And so none of what I'm trying to tell you to do is just because I'm being an asshole or because I don't want you to have something or whatever. Like last night, he's playing a game on the TV or whatever with his friends, and he's on his headset and everything. And his grandmother sleeps like right through the wall on the other side of the TV. And I'm like, dude, you gotta
respect.
Cool it down. You gotta respect the other people in this house. We respect you. You gotta respect the other people. And like, I will turn it off. Like it's actually my PlayStation. You know, it belongs to me. Like it was like my wife gave it to me actually. So it was a present. And I'm being kind to let you use it. They seem to assume that it's theirs, but we don't have squatters' rights in my house. But anyway, no. But so it's about like teaching them that respect, but then also letting them know, like, look, just so you know, like, there's some things that you have that you've built that you own here, but then there's some other stuff that like I'm in charge of, and it's mine, and you're going to respect it. Otherwise, those things are going to start to go away. You're not entitled to a phone. You're not entitled to these services that are on the phone or any of those kinds of things. So like there's some of those things that are challenging. And I can see how it's easy to get caught up because it's really convenient. And that's why the state operates the way that it does, I think, is because it's very convenient. It's very easy to go to violence and threats and coercion first, instead of reasoning with people and helping to convince people, like this, all this stuff with the mandates and everything else. Like it's, if this was like just a simple, hey, look, we're going through something. We want everybody to respect one another, and we ask that you do these things. Mm-hmm. Instead, it's, we're going to shut your water off. We're going to shut your power off. We're going to find you out of business. You know, we're going to make it to where you can never fly again. We're going to make it to where you can never do this again, do that again. That's on a different level. And you cannot help, just like a kid would from his parents, you cannot help but question what the motivation is when it comes with threats. When it's threats, it's like, wait a second. Do you love me? And are you doing this out of love for me and because it's in my best interest? Or are you doing this just because you want me to shut up because you can't hear the football game? You want me to shut up because you're, messing my high up or whatever, or, I mean, I know there's people who, like, they're, it's a single parent situation or something like that. A kid gets beaten because, the boyfriend or the girlfriend is over and they're trying to get down, and they just don't want you around messing up the vibe, when there's that kind of shit going on, it makes the kids question, like, wait a second, like, this is not, I think I know what was going on now. As you grow older and you mature. And when you don't understand the motivations you're not reasoned with, it's very, very easy for people to question and to want to rebel. And here we are, make America rebel again.
Since we're talking about you and rebelling, what drew you to, like, the Hotep Nation, like, rebellion? Granted, it's got its own anarchical vibe and things of that nature. You helping out brothers. Like, you could be worried about your own community. You could be definitely doing other things. And granted, negating that color factor. But you're choosing to go and be a very big part, not just of this different brand, and you're helping build it. So where do you step in there?
Well, look, so like, since Uncle Hotep likes to do this, no ABL sort of thing or whatever. So I'll do no Rachel Dolezal, no Sean King. I'm not trying, this isn't cultural appropriation or anything like that, but, like, in a way, I kind of feel like it is my community, not mine in the sense of ownership, but I feel like I have a kindred spirit with Hotep Nation, because, and really with like the Black community in general, again, from a standpoint of, like, I can see the power, the strength, and the potential that is being snuffed out by the emasculation of males in the Black community, by the removal of males from the family through legislation and police interactions that ends up overly harming and incarcerating Black males relative to the rest of the population by a long shot. And I kind of see that game for what it is, that I recognized a long time ago that there's not a whole lot else in the world that rivals that sort of, I don't know, Tupac, NWA, that, fuck the police kind of energy that comes from the Black community, that I don't know that and Bob Marley, I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy, like, it's no victim, no crime too. Like, there's all kinds of, like, the Bob Marley, the lyrical and the social commentary that exists there, and in so much more of like that, what has become urban culture, or whatever, that has been kind of hijacked and co-opted too, if you look at it, because what used to be that stuff has now become, Meg the Stallion and Tory Lanez and all this other kind of bullshit, and Lizzo. So seeing that stuff for what it is and recognizing like, okay, if I'm the mastermind trying to rule the world, huh? Oh, don't get you started on it.
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah. But if I'm the mastermind trying to rule the world, that's the threat I'm going to try to neutralize.
For sure.
And so for me, I want to help buttress that as much as I can, and to join the fight, because if that wall breaks, then that's a huge hole in the defenses. And you have like all these other, you have the militias, you have all these other different groups that are doing their part in their own way, with the way that their own culture, kind of has led them to do those things. But we have, I've talked about this a lot, like we have all these different ways of skinning the cat. When you remove one of those ways completely from the equation, that's why they attack them. That's why they vilify the militia types. That's why they vilify all these people. They co-opt and hijack and try to undermine all these different groups that can push back against that force and coercion, because as long as they can keep them fighting that fight instead of the real fight, then they won. They can keep, they continue to hold an advantage.
Well, and you can see that in what they do. One of the reasons that I'm drawn personally to the Hotep Nation and to many of these issues, I was already drawn to Malcolm X. And one of the things that they've done, whether you're talking about Nipsey Russell or you're talking about Malcolm X or even
Nipsey Hussle, come on now.
Yeah. No matter. Sorry. So whether you're talking about any of these people or even possibly Tupac, when they start challenging, when a strong black man starts challenging the state, even with Martin Luther King Jr., when they start coming after the state just kills them, just fucking knocks them the fuck off. And so for me, I'm like, okay, they don't do that with the hillbillies down the road generally. They leave them the fuck alone. They don't do that with a bunch of different other groups, but they do it with the black community. So that tells me that they are fucking scared of a free black community. And if I can build that shit up, that is an ally I want, because a strong black man is a powerful enemy, and the state knows it. So I'm with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think this has been roughly
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Close to it.
So yeah, we're about there.
So okay. So I guess that's my hint from Chad that we need to wrap the fuck up.
Well, I don't know if anybody else is looking at the clock, so I'm just
right.
I will say again.
I didn't know when
I'm wearing this for a reason.
I didn't know when to interrupt.
Right.
I'm sweating my ass off under this, so I don't know how comfortable I'm going to be at this party, but I am going to a Christmas party immediately after we wrap these interviews up. So.
Got it. So make sure you like, share, and hit that bell icon. Go to the Patreon, go to the store, and check out our content. Thank you very much for watching this part 2 of us introducing us to y'all. And this has been really good, and I like Chad's idea of continuing to do it. So stay free, my friend.
Much appreciation.
Yeah.
Peace.